Hello, everyone. I'm here today with Drew Capener, who's one of our developers for our OminPasskey product, and just thought it would be interesting for everyone to hear a little bit more about going passwordless and passwordless strategies. So, hey, Drew, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing good, doing good. Um, so maybe it would be good for people to hear a little bit of background about OmniPasskey and just passwordless in general. If you want to give some background.
Sure. I mean, I guess the elevator pitch for OmniPasskey is that it's a product that we've been working on that enables passwordless login. Um, and right now, we're pretty focused on doing that for the research and education community, which is a community that, as a company, we have a lot of ties with. But yeah, through that process, we've become really familiar with the passkey standard, which we've been building on top of, and it's kind of what makes the magic of passwordless login work. And you were the one that brought up passkeys, right? I think it was maybe you were watching the Apple's WWDC or something
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah. The Worldwide Developers Conference last year, and yeah, it was kind of interesting. I mean, you were working on self-sovereign identity or SSI, and then all of a sudden we had Apple agree to follow the FIDO standard and do passwordless with passkeys, and then Google was already on board and Microsoft was already on board. So yeah, it kind of made sense, and we did some research, and you started digging into it with the team, and started looking at it.
Yeah, I mean, I remember one of the things that made it kind of click for us, I think, is all the work that we had done with SSI. I think when we talked to people about what we were trying to do there, the thing that they were really excited about was getting rid of passwords. And so when this other thing was offered that would get rid of passwords and seemed to do it in a way that really would work and that we could implement practically, I think that just made sense to you and I and the other people that were working on the project. So,
Yeah, it seems like when the and when the giants agree on something, that's going to be the direction, and you kind of have to figure out some of the other things. Hopefully, passwordless and FIDO can turn into and help provide some of the things SSI is going towards. And there's a lot of SSI work in Europe that's very interesting. There's a lot of wallets out there, but the, there's definitely a lot of potential to really make things easier for people and more secure.
right. I think, like you mentioned, because Apple and Google and Microsoft all agreed on this, it's such a rare occurrence. I feel like in any case where that happens, that's pretty much declaring the direction that things are going to go. So,
Yeah, it's been kind of interesting, since that announcement, um, and you and the other developers were digging into it, and it's interesting how things have evolved. We started developing the plugin for Shibboleth initially because there's a large set of universities in the research and education community around the world that actually use Shibboleth, and we thought that that would be a really good place. And with that integration, we started to watch and look out for other integrations. And, just recently we were able to turn on a beta for our, Google domains where we could actually use passkeys, which was kind of cool.
yeah, I mean, I've tried to adopt passkeys as much as possible, obviously, because we're working with them. And it is in an interesting state right now where I think um, for as much promise as it has and as much as people want to adopt it, there's still I mean, there are barriers to entry for all of the institutions out there to adopt it, right? Everyone's going to need to add something to their stack or to build some custom solution that enables passkeys. Um, and most people, from what I've seen, just haven't gotten there yet. They probably have other sort of mission critical priorities that they're focused on. But I think, like, for a lot of sort of enterprises, the universities and institutions like that we look at, getting rid of passwords should be a priority because of how awful it's been. I mean, you've probably had to work with passwords more than me and seen more horror stories than me, but like, from your perspective as someone who even worked in the identity space at a university before, what are like the really bad things that you can see happen with passwords that this could hopefully get rid of?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you just go in the news, you don't have to, I don't want to call out anything specific, but if you just look at the news reports and you see, a lot of things are done by social engineering, and a lot of that social engineering is to try to get to a password so then they can go do something. A lot of places have implemented, multi-factor authentication, but there's still windows, there's still areas where those not covered, or you turn them off and you try to come back in. Um, and, and even everyone just says yes, yes, yes. I'm tired of this thing asking me. Just say yes. And it really, we need to take the human out of the loop as much as possible, um, with passwords. And I think, passkeys really enable that. Um, it's, it really solves a lot of issues. And the cool thing is, you get rid of passwords, and because you have your device, it's multi-factor. So maybe tell people a little bit more about how that's possible, because I think that's pretty cool, and it's like not obvious.
Yeah. Well, the multi-factor aspect is not obvious because um, it's much more subtle than what we do to accomplish multi-factor now. Um, the standard for multi-factor now is you're getting a push notification that you have to authorize on your phone, or you're getting a text, a code texted to you or emailed to you, something like that. Um, and that's in addition to a password. And so they're kind of proving that you have, your device where you can receive that message or that notification, and you have your password. So like in the security space, they talk about having at least two factors, something something you have, or something you are. So picking one of those, two of those three is going to give you two factors. So the idea there is you know your password, and you have maybe your phone in this case, right? Or you have access to your email. Um, so those are your two factors in the traditional way that we think about this or have done this. But with passkeys, it's just so much more slick, and so you don't even really notice that you're getting two factors, um, because in most cases you're authorizing with a biometric, which would be something you are, right? Something intrinsic to you, or you're authorizing it with a PIN, on your phone, something and then the second factor is the fact that the passkey itself resides on your phone or on your computer, and has to be authorized from there. So you're sort of inherently getting both of those things, both the something you have, and the something you know or are. So it's much smoother, and I think that speaks to the user experience improvement here. Is where it's interesting because it makes the experience better for the user, but that's also why it's more secure in so many ways, is because we're kind of getting all of the possible ways that the user could shoot themselves in the foot out of the way here. We're not asking them to try to come up with a strong password. We're not asking them to try to not reuse passwords. Um, and we're not asking them to do two separate steps to get two factors. The two factors happen all at once. Um, and the list goes on from there. But I think that's kind of the key thing, is how do we kind of get the user out of the way, like you said, get them out of the loop as much as possible, um, so that we can use the protocols to do the heavy lifting and and make sure that everything that happens is above board and secure. So that's what's really cool about this to me. And of course, just as a user, I love the fact that I can, log into any website just with, basically the touch of my fingertip or my Face ID or something like that.
Yeah, it's really amazing how easy it is. And I totally agree. It's, you know, part of that ease of use and that usability makes it more secure. And, you know, we were joking back and forth when we were talking about, making a video for this, and we were saying, what do people do for passwords? I mean, long time ago, we'd always type in the same password, and you'd have like three levels of password. And this is my secure password. I'm going to put in banking, and then my not so secure password, I'm going to put it in my email, and then my, when I go log in and buy something that or whatever, or log in just to read a newspaper, you have a lower level, and maybe we've evolved over time and used um, other things or maybe other algorithms for those passwords, but really just having a single, really public private key exchange with that one single site, you know what I mean, that you're going to, and then you have a totally different one to a different site, you're not going to have the, oh, guess what, your password's been hacked at whatever here, and now you have to go change everywhere that might have that same password, and you have to try to remember that. It just eliminates all those things that people worry about and just kind of go, I hope it's good enough, and just makes it really more secure. And I don't know, that your experience and your thoughts as well.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll kind of add, I remember at a previous, job, we had a kind of an obscurely named file that we could all access that had all of the passwords in it. And I kind of joke that, everybody has a file named like something like definitely not passwords.txt or something like that. Um, and so kind of an additional thing that you get out of this is you don't have to remember your passwords, and it's all managed for you by the kind of the operating system, and now with this passkey standard, which allows things to be synced via the cloud, uh, via these big public clouds like iCloud, Google, Microsoft. Um, so that's pretty cool as well.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit more. I mean, and one of the things, we try to do with OminPasskey is leverage, we call native passwordless or something like that. We haven't thought of a better way to phrase it yet, but what does it mean to let the OS do the lifting? Tell a little bit more about that.
Yeah. Um, so passkeys, uh, when you use passkeys to log into a service that you use online, you would say that you're registering a passkey with that service. And of course, there's a lot of cryptography and kind of complex stuff happening under the hood. Um, but at kind of an abstracted, basic level, you're actually creating on your device, using the device's secure hardware, a public private key pair, and you're keeping the private key stored on your device, or in your encrypted cloud account, as the case may be, and giving the public key to the service provider. And what that allows to happen is, um, next time you go to log into that service, the service provider can send you a plain text string, for example, just kind of abstracting over some details here, and ask you to encrypt that with your private key. And because you're the only one that has that private key, if you encrypt that and send that to them, and they can decrypt it with your public key that they have stored, they now have a proof that you are you when you're logging in. So that's kind of the mechanism that allows it to replace passwords. Um, but to speak to your question, um, in terms of the storage and using the device, so yeah, so the key pair is created by your device's hardware, um, and it is stored in the secure module on your device. Um, and of course now what passkeys adds to the existing protocols and standards that existed before is this ability to sync things uh, via the cloud. And of course, that's using, you know, I always go back to iCloud's encryption and the same encryption that Google provides and things. So now you can have the same passkey stored on each of your devices within an ecosystem.
Right. And I think they call that, in the enclave of the operating system, and even goes to Windows desktop devices, to Mac OS devices, to iOS, to iPad OS, to Chrome, and all the different browsers on all the different platforms, and even over to, Google and all the different things. So it really has wide coverage in, all the different levels, and it keeps getting better, because, you know, the companies are using it themselves, for various different aspects, Windows Hello and everything.
Right. Um, yeah, each of the companies is rolling out support kind of as fast as they can. And I mentioned how support's maybe not 100% there yet already. But in terms of the hardware and the operating systems and things like that, support really is very good, even at the browser level. There are still some holes that need to be patched, but everywhere you look, you see there are, um, you know, there's active work being done to get that support done and pushed out to the public. So I think we should be in a world where passkeys are pretty much standard relatively soon, at least speaking in terms of the hardware, the operating systems, and the browsers. Um, and then it's going to be left to all this different service providers uh, to implement them. But also, like you said, these big providers themselves are learning things and adjusting and improving on the go. Something I just saw is, I think now with an Android phone, if you have an Android, it actually automatically registers a passkey for you with your Google account. And the same thing's going to happen on your iPhone with an upcoming iOS update. Is basically, if you have an iPhone, they're going to create a passkey for your Apple account. And I think that speaks to how much faith and confidence these big players have in this standard in terms of what it can do for them and their security posture. The fact that they're basically going to force all their users onto this. Um,
Right. Yeah. And I mean, just like we were talking about earlier, the history of hacks and even to ransomware and stuff, a lot of them begin with someone handing out a password. And now we've made it easier and more secure. And so, that's, as an industry, that's a really good thing. We can move on to some other things. Although
right.
that's a
Yeah.
big, it's a big rollout, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was just going to say it's very silly, the security issues that we've had to deal with for so many years now because of passwords. Um, and it's remarkable when you think about how many you know big breaches and things happen because of just a simple social engineering or phishing
Yeah.
operation uh, that works. So it'll be kind of amazing when the world moves to this to see how much the surface of attack has shrunken.
Yeah, kind of early on in my career that there was the big push for worms. Everyone was writing worms that would go in and find exploits and do things. And then I think they learned that they could just ask people for passwords. And they said, that's a lot of work to make a worm. We're just going to ask people for passwords. So I think we'll finally get out of that phase and we'll learn what the next phase is. But it'll definitely be a more secure phase, I truly believe.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited, and I'm like, I'm so excited that I find myself frustrated that I can't convert more of my accounts to passkeys already. I have basically everything that I can have set up now, but I'd love to just be using them everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, like banks and brokerages and those types of places, adopt them pretty quickly. A lot of them have their own stacks they have to support with that. But yeah,
Right.
it seems like that's the next piece.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, well, any other thoughts around passwords or passkeys or anything that, you want to share?
Um, I don't think so. I guess, uh, maybe if people are listening, you know, depending on who you are, if are just someone that's interested in using passkeys personally, I think the path forward would basically be, you know, make a list of all the services that you use online and try to just work down the list and switch as much as you can over to passkeys. The biggest ones are kind of there. Google's got passkeys rolled out. Apple, like I just said, should be the next update that you'll have a passkey for your Apple account, and then the smaller services will follow suit. Um, and then I think the big technical hurdle that's left, um, is going to be switching every you know small to large service that exists on the internet right now over to this. And that is going to be a challenge, especially um, people that have homegrown sort of identity solutions, trying to add this on top of that, um, or even you know people that are using more out of the box solutions that are going to have to figure out how to shim something in or plug something in. um, I think, like, we've figured out a nice medium of something that can plug into a lot of existing architectures, and that's probably kind of what we'll see going forward. But I think that's the next step, is how do we get all these services moved over, which is going to be it's going to be a big global project. But I think the benefits will be huge.
Yeah. And it kind of made me think about something. I mean, as enterprises look at their, security posture and their standards, and, they really need to develop a passwordless strategy. And I think that, the sooner that's one of those, a lot of times I see things in the security space and you go, I don't know how much that's really going to help things. Yeah, that helps, 5, 10, 15%. But this is something that could help, a major percent, 50, 60% of issues related to it, and simplify things for users. So having that strategy for enterprises to adopt passwordless, it should be on the radar. And it's kind of like you check this box off, then you get to spend more time on doing what you do for your day to day, and a little less telling everybody how to be secure with their passwords, which is a huge effort.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing that just sort of anecdotally from the people that we've talked to. Some of the more forward thinking organizations that we've talked to, definitely by the time we're talking to them, they're basically already in a position where they have passkeys on their list, or password list essentially, and they're just trying to figure out the how. But I think there are still a lot of organizations that aren't quite even maybe there yet to the what. Um, and that's, I think, even any organization of any appreciable size probably needs to just get this on their list and start chipping away at it at least.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, anyway, it's been great talking with you this afternoon, um, and thanks for all your great work on this. It's a fun project. What do you think? What do you think about the project? Is it, now that you've been, we've been down there for a little while?
Yeah, no, it's exciting. I mean, I I, I think internet standards and protocols are very interesting, and it's exciting to be working kind of on the cutting edge of new standards and figuring out how to roll things out. So that aspect of it is exciting. And then also the potential impact is just huge. You just think about so many people out there that just made one slip up, giving away their Amazon password or whatever the case may be, and had that, the repercussions of that sort of reverberate throughout their lives for, days, months, weeks after that. Um, the potential to stop that sort of thing um, is huge here, and so that's exciting to feel like this is something that has real potential impact.
Yeah. Well, awesome. Well, thanks for talking with me, and have a great afternoon, great evening.
Yeah, thanks. You too.
Okay. Take care.
Bye bye.